Hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I hope that everyone's doing well. My name is Georgia. I am the Client Support Analyst and Scrum Master for Sprint Innovations. A little bit about me, I'm based in the Czech Republic with our development team. And our speaker and Sprint Director, Chris Wilson, will be presenting to you today from his home. Got a really exciting talk for you, which we expect to go on for about 30 minutes or so with some fun trivia polls and some time for questions at the end. So without any further ado, please welcome Chris.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you.
You can?
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so yeah, just before we get started, just a little bit of information about me. So I'm from Yorkshire in the UK. I started programming back in 1993 on an IBM 286. And in 2003, I founded a small web design and hosting company before moving on to working at an online marketing agency called Summit, where I was for 9 years creating applications that automated online marketing. And then 6 years ago, I founded Sprint Innovations, a software development agency where we create web and mobile apps for our clients. I've been really lucky over my career to have worked on some really exciting projects for some big clients, such as Free Mobile, Carpetright, Virgin Trains, and Argos. And as an agency, we're reviewed by our clients 5 stars on the review website, Clutch. So, what's coming up in this webinar? The first thing will be validating your idea. If you have an idea for an app, how to validate it. Choosing the right platform and technology. The development process. Getting funding. Making it a success. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. If there's any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to ask them in Zoom. We may answer them as we go along, or we may wait until the end. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to get across is that the approach you take will depend on your personal circumstances. Basically, you need to be able to invest either time or money in order to succeed. Most people are probably in Sam's position where they have ideas for apps and they have time that they're willing to invest, and it's just a matter of funding to get those off the ground. If you have time and money, then obviously you're going to have a head start. But yeah, as long as you're not like Bob, where you have all of the ideas in the world, but you're not willing to invest any time or any money, then clearly that's not going to work. So you are the key to your app's success. Many people have the same ideas. It's only those that actually go ahead and act on them that will succeed. When I was in San Francisco a few years ago, someone said, the founder of Airbnb once said that the only difference between him and the next guy is that he just went ahead and did it. So that's just go ahead, basically. So we'll do our first trivia poll. Over 20% of millennials said that they deleted a mobile app because they didn't like the icon. Now in Zoom, you should now have the ability to vote whether or not you think that is true or false. If you just vote now. So most people have voted, and yeah, most people have said 77% said they think it's true, and 3% said they think it's false. The actual answer is it's true. 20% of millennials have deleted an app because they didn't like the logo. Who knew that would have been so important? Okay, so we'll move on to validating your idea. So if you have an idea, step 1, validate it, make sure it's worthy of investing your time and effort. The very first thing you should do is competitor analysis in the app stores. A few years ago, a guy approached me with an idea for an app, and he was really excited about it. He made me sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And his app idea was really good, but a quick Google search revealed that there was already a significant player with that app. So he hadn't done the basic competitor research. A really good thing to do is check the app stores for apps that are similar to yours and read the competitor reviews there. find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and plan to build a better app that already exists out there based on what you can see in the App Store reviews already. The next step is to estimate the size of the market. So you can do this by using keyword research tools such as keyword.io or Google Trends. So if your app is health and fitness related, for example, you could use those tools to search for the search volumes of those keywords, see how many people are actually searching for apps that are similar to the one you want to build. Another thing is that you can interview potential users. So you can arrange interactive webinars, a bit like this one, post in forums or create online surveys just to gauge if there is an interest for the demographic that you're after. You can create a register your interest page. So these are very quick and simple to set up. You can put paid traffic to it and basically just see how many people register for interest in your app. It's a really good way because you can target advertising to this page for your specific demographic. And if you get 1,000 people visiting the page and not many people filling in the register your interest, then it's probably less of a good idea. And also you could put a mini prototype on there or a video explaining what it would be. Another really good way is to attend physical meetups. So meetup.com is an excellent website for meetups. There's everything on there from stamp collecting groups to detailed tech groups, programming groups, literally everything. So you could attend a meetup which is appropriate to the app that you want to build and just ask people face to face what they think of your idea. Another one is to post mock-ups of the idea on idea websites. So there's a really good website called producthunt.com where you can post your idea along with some collateral and people can upvote it if they like it, and they can also discuss it. It's a really good way to get feedback on your idea. And last but not least, certainly, is to have a design sprint. Now, you may or may not have heard what a design sprint is. So I'll go into that now. What is a design sprint? Basically, a design sprint is a 5-day process for answering business critical questions through design, prototyping, and testing ideas with customers. So it's actually created by people at Google Ventures, and they say it's the greatest hits of business strategy, innovation, behavioral science, design thinking, and more, packaged into a battle-tested process that any team can use. It sounds good. So basically, working together in a design sprint, you can shortcut the endless debate cycle, compress months of time into a single week. You can basically fast forward to see the finished product and customer reactions before making any expensive commitments. So a design sprint is a really valuable tool. It's basically a week-long agenda with the goal of validating an idea and testing it with real customers. So Monday on a design sprint is spent understanding the challenge, what you're trying to solve with your app, and setting the goal for the week. Tuesday, day 2, is spent finding inspiration and thinking of solutions for that challenge. Day 3 is picking the winners and creating a user storyboard. So this is from a storyboard of the user journey from before they even install your app. So it could be, they were browsing Facebook, they come across your app, they install it, the entire storyboard of a user, not just the user journey within the app itself. And then Thursday is spent creating a prototype of that storyboard. Obviously it's only done in a day, so it's not super polished, but it's enough to test on users. And then Friday is spent testing that prototype on users. And there's a camera in their face, the video screen is, the computer screen is recorded, and people are sat in another room basically watching their reactions to the product. So it really does compress months of time into a 1-week focused sprint to test an idea. And there is an excellent book by Jake Knapp from Google Ventures, which goes on to explain how you can do design sprints, and it sets out that agenda in a lot more detail. So I definitely recommend that book. It's valid, a design sprint is valid not just for building apps, but also for solving lots of problems. It can be applied for many things. So definitely check out the book, and you can run one yourself. We're also planning, after the pandemic, of hosting design sprints at our office in Czech Republic as well. So yeah, you're welcome to inquire about that. Okay, so let's do our second trivia poll. In what year did combined worldwide mobile traffic overtake desktop? Hold on a second. So if everybody could vote now, in what year do you think combined worldwide mobile traffic overtook desktop? Was it 2013, 2015, or 2019? Okay, the votes are coming in thick and fast. Thank you. So it looks to be an almost tie of 2013 and 2015. I'll share the results now. And the answer is coming. 2017. It now stands at 53%. In 2013, it was only 16.2%. So it's more than tripled in the last 6 years. And obviously that's worldwide mobile traffic. In the UK, it probably did happen earlier, like a lot of you voted there, 2013. Okay, so now we'll move on to choosing the right platform for your app. So there's 3 main choices really: iOS, Android, and PWA. I'm assuming most people are familiar with what iOS and Android are, but you may not be familiar too much with what a PWA is. So I'll just explain what is a PWA. So a PWA is a progressive web app, and it uses new browser technologies to make web apps look and behave like native apps. Just like native apps, they're installable, they're very capable, and they're very reliable. So let's just have a look at the comparing between them. So the main benefit of a PWA is that you can develop it once and it will work on any device: desktop, Android, iOS. So there's a huge benefit and cost saving there just in terms of upfront investment to getting something working on all of those platforms. And just like you can install an app on the Google Play Store or the App Store, you can also install a PWA and add it to the home screen on your mobile phone, or add it to the dock on your computer. They also support push notifications, just like a native app on iOS and Android. And they also work offline. And they can also access the phone's hardware features, such as GPS, camera, and microphone. And they're becoming more capable every year. More and more features are possible to happen in the web browser as a PWA. The main downside at the moment is push notifications aren't supported on iOS, although hopefully Apple will join the bandwagon soon and allow that. So I just got a screen recording here just to show how good a PWA is. So this is a time tracking PWA. And at the top of the browser, there's now an install button. So you can press install. And now it's basically installed this app, and it looks and feels a lot more like a native app now. So you can see, you can move it around. There's no browser navigation. And I can move it into my dock at the bottom of the screen. And I can now use this as a native app. So this particular app is time tracking. So I'll do a test time track here. And there we are. It's running nicely. You can close it, and then you can open it without opening the browser. You just open the app from your dock. So that's how it looks on desktop. On mobile, it's very similar. You can press add to home screen and press add. And now you can see it's added an app icon there on my home screen, and it's opened full screen, again, without any browser navigation. It looks and feels just like a native app. So a PWA is a really good way to have a native app feel without all of the cost and investment and time investment of developing for the specific platforms at the beginning. Yeah, I think Apple are dragging their heels a little bit because the App Store makes Apple a lot of money. But hopefully they'll add push notifications to iOS soon. Another thing I wanted just to talk about briefly without getting too technical is just choosing which frameworks to use for your app. And this is because I've met a few people that have invested quite a lot of time and money in their apps, and they've used quite old and outdated methods. And I felt quite sorry for them because they're going to have to invest a lot more money in correcting it and making it more modern. So basically any app is split into back-end and front-end code. The back-end is basically the brains of the app, the logic and the data processing. And the front end is the visual interactive aspect that you see in the browser. And Java and Python are the most popular backend programming languages. So if you're going to build an app or you're going to get an agency to build an app for you and they're not using Java or Python, then I would just be cautious and just check why, because it could, if you need to move away from that agency for any reason and they've used an obscure programming languages that not many people know, then it could be a challenge finding people to pick up and maintain your app. And on the front end, the two main technologies are Angular and React. And both of these allow an app to be created as a PWA very easily. As an agency, Sprint have chosen to use Java and Angular, mainly because they're more robust. They're actually more difficult to learn, and that in turn attracts a higher caliber of developers. So, you know, for excellent quality, that's why we've chosen those technologies. That's not to say there's anything wrong specifically with the others, but these are just would be our recommendations. Another thing that you should definitely try and do is to make sure that your app is built cloud native. And what this means is it's built on Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, or Microsoft Azure. Traditionally, you would build a web application and host it on a web server. These cloud providers have created loads of developer tools, which speeds up the process of development for developers, which makes it a lot faster to build, and it costs a lot less. It's more reliable and easier to maintain, and you don't need to go to a data center and install and buy expensive servers. You can fire them up with the touch of a button, and they scale automatically, and you only pay for what you use. So when you're a small app, it'll be very cheap to host, and you only pay more as your app gets more popular. So if you're building an app, it's a good idea to make sure it's cloud native. So let's do Trivia Poll 3. So what percentage of smartphone users in the US download 0 new mobile apps per month? What do you think the answer is? Just launch the poll now. What percentage of smartphone users in the US download 0 new mobile apps per month? So the votes are coming in, thank you. So it's quite split, this one. Most people are saying up to 25%. I'll just end the voting. Yeah, so 50% of people said they think up to 25%. 25% of people said 25 to 50%, and another 25% of people said more than 50%. The actual answer is more than 50% of people in the US download 0 new apps per month on average. 13% download 1 app and 11% download 2 apps. And this actually makes a great case for creating your app as a PWA. If not many people are installing new apps, if you create it as a PWA that appears in the browser and they can add it to their home screen very easily, then you've avoided that obstacle of somebody having to install an app from the App Store. So now we'll just move on to the development process. 1 second. And the very first thing you should do before moving on to the development process is defining your minimum viable product. So this means the minimum functionality that is required in order to launch your product. This can be determined in the design sprint. So, you know, obviously a lot of people want all of the bells and whistles that make an application really good. But in the beginning, for the MVP, you should focus on just what makes it critical for success. Now, many agencies have different development processes. Our specific process is this one. The first phase is the specifications and wireframes. So a wireframe is just roughly what content will be on what screen and which screens are going to exist. We would then go on to create a really nice looking visual prototype that you can click that will look exactly like the final app, but it's just doesn't have the brains behind it yet. We would then go on to a development phase, which is the longest and most expensive phase of the process, where the full team of developers are working on it in short 2 weeks blocks of work. And then before launch, everything is tested, making sure it's free of bugs before it goes live. So that makes the typical project lifecycle something like this. It can start with a design sprint, which is 1 week. Sometimes there needs to be multiple design sprints if the app is solving many challenges. The scoping and prototyping stage usually takes about 6 weeks. And the development stage is the longest and needs the most number of people. So on the slide there, you can see the resources that are needed, which is what makes it expensive. And that makes the cost of building an app monthly over time, something like this. So in the beginning, when it's just 1 or 2 people doing the specifications and the designs and the prototypes, it starts off a low monthly cost. The development phase, you've got 6 people working on a project as a minimum to keep it going. And then once it's launched, there's generally just an ongoing cost. Normally the pace of development slows down. New features are added every month or so, but you don't need the full team that was building the core of the app. So that's how the cost usually looks over time. Okay, so now we'll move on to how to make it a success. So the most important way to make your app a success is to have social and sharing features baked into the app's design from the very beginning. So the app should be capable of self-marketing all by itself to give it the best chance of success. And there's some ways you can do that. So one way is to include incentives to invite friends. So Uber, for example, the taxi company, owes a lot of its success to the £10 free ride it gave people for referring a friend, although the incentive doesn't have to be cash. The app can notify users when their friends sign up, so that helps keep people engaged and keeps the community there. You should definitely make share-worthy and social features content in there. So for example, if it's applicable, you can have leaderboards and achievements and competitions within the app. Really have features in there that makes people want to share it so that you don't have to market the app. Your users are marketing the app for you. Before launching the app, create a buzz around it. Create lots of content, some video marketing, some advertising, blogs. Really get a community of people before you launch it. So when it launches on day 1, it starts with a bang. When it does launch, you can submit it to all of the app stores. It is possible to submit PWAs, the progressive web apps, to app stores as well, with a little bit of conversion. And there's also optimization you can do in the app stores to get your app to the top of the results if people are searching for your type of app. You can also pitch your app to Apple and try and get them to feature it in the App Store. So a couple of years ago, Apple redesigned the App Store completely, and they now have a featured section. So if Apple deem it worthy enough, they could feature your app there, and that basically springboards your app to success pretty quickly. And last but not least, paid advertising for the app. So platforms like LinkedIn and LinkedIn and Facebook, they allow you to target specific demographics of people. So again, if you were building a health and fitness app, for example, you could target people that are just into health and fitness. Only there you will see your advert with the prompts to install your app. Okay, so before we move on, let's do the final poll. Is more time spent in apps or on the mobile web? So I'm just launching this now. If everybody could vote, do you think more time is spent in apps, or do you think more people spend more time on the mobile web? Which do you think? So thank you, the votes are coming in. Okay, I think most people have voted. Thank you. So people voted, 63% of you for most people spent their time in apps, and 38% said the mobile web. So the actual answer is in apps, and by quite a big margin. 87% of people spend more time in apps versus the mobile web. So that's a really good case to have your app as a PWA put in the web store, because people could access it, find it on the web and install it, and you really do get the best of both worlds. You have both an app and it's in the web browser at the same time, which would make it 100% for your app. Okay, so now we'll move on to funding your app. So the different options that you have for funding are as follows. So the first is to bootstrap it. So basically do it yourself with savings, friends and family, gather any funding that you have available. This is obviously really fast and easy, but not many people have the means to do that. So the second option is to get a personal or business bank loan. So it's relatively easy to get a bank loan for up to £25,000 in the UK. And that's definitely a significant amount to make some progress on an MVP and get your idea off the ground. Private investors are generally quite difficult. The key is just finding the right person. If you're lucky and you know somebody that is passionate about the topic of your app and they also have money and they can become a private investor, then that's great, but it can be quite difficult. Venture capital firms are very good, but it's difficult because they require a proven track record of your app's success. So it's more applicable later on when your app is already established and you want to take it to the next level, that you could approach a venture capital firm. One of my favorites actually is a business partnership. So if you, as a person with an idea for an app, approached a business of which it would be relevant for, they could effectively fund your app and you could effectively help them build the app, and it's funded by them. So that allows for a significant amount of funding, of monthly funding, although obviously you'd be giving up some ownership most likely to that business, but it would be an excellent way to get it off the ground if you're not too bothered about ownership. Another option is to sell the app before you've even created it. So this is normally only applicable for high-value business-to-business apps, where you can sell the idea, get buy-in from potential clients before you even create it, and then you can use their intention to buy as a way to get funding to build it. Another option is crowdfunding, and this can be quite difficult because you need a large number of people to invest on day one of the campaign, and you really need to create a lot of buzz around it before you launch a crowdfunding campaign. So for example, you can't just go onto one of the crowdfunding sites and add your app there and expect it to get great results. You really need to get thousands, hundreds of thousands of people interested in it, so that when you launch the campaign, it starts with a bang in order to succeed. And last but not least, government grants. So obviously these are excellent because it's free money that you don't have to pay back in any way whatsoever. I guess the only caveat is that you can normally only get them for very specific cases in very specific conditions. But we'll talk a bit more about grants in a minute. But just to summarize those funding options, if you can, bootstrapping it yourself, and with a personal loan or business loan, are definitely good ways to go because you're not giving up any of the ownership. Business partnerships are an excellent thing to explore because there's potential for significant ongoing funding from that business, because typically a business that you partnership with has profit that they can put into your app idea and help you fund it. And obviously you should always check to see if there are any government grants available for you, regardless of which option you choose. So just a bit about government grants. There's three main things you should do. The first is to check the Innovate UK website. So Innovate UK, you can get a share of £25 million for disruptive R&D innovations that make a significant impact on the UK economy. So the UK government have set out 4 grand challenges which they're really keen to invest in. The first one is artificial intelligence and data. The second one is our aging society, aging population. The third one is clean growth, so helping the environment. And the fourth one is the future of mobility, such as self-driving cars. So if your app idea fits into any one of those 4 categories, then there's a good chance you could get a share of that £25 million in a grant. Or if you're still conceiving the idea for your app, it would be a good idea to check out the Innovate UK website, because they also host competitions on there, specific things that they want people to go ahead and build, and they could give you funding to go ahead and do that. So Innovate UK, you should definitely check it out. It's one of the best sources for grants in the UK. Another thing you should consider is the R&D tax credits. So this means that you can get some savings in your corporation tax if you're building an app for your business. And this can be as high as 25%. So for example, if you're a profitable business and you spend £100,000 on an R&D project, which could be building this, your app, then you could save £25,000 in taxes off your tax bill. And if you're a loss-making business, it's a bit harder. But if you were spending £50,000 on a project, you could save £16,500 on tax liabilities. So yeah, definitely check out R&D tax credits. And the third is to check the British Business Bank. So this is an excellent website. It has all of the latest grant and funding options available on there. And at the moment, it's also got all of the latest coronavirus related information. So yeah, these three things you should definitely check out when going ahead with any app idea or business. Just another thing to consider is if your app idea is community focused, you could check out the National Lottery Community Fund as well. They may be able to get you a grant. Okay, so we're almost ready for our Q&A. But I just wanted to talk about our design sprint offer. So we mentioned the 5-day process of a design sprint. When the pandemic is over, we're going to start introducing these as an away week at our office in Brno in the Czech Republic. It will have flights and accommodation included, and it will cost around £5,000. And our first 3 design sprints, we're going to be giving a 25% discount on those. So if you have an idea for an app and you want to test that idea with the design sprint process that I mentioned at the beginning, then do get in touch on the live chat on our website after the webinar. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. Thank you. It's just gone 11:30, so it is exactly half an hour as promised. So shall we see if there were any questions? Let's have a look. Georgia, are you there?
Hello, yes I am. Sorry about that. I was just checking the chat. I've had a couple through privately, so I can ask those on our attendees' behalfs if you are happy with that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to fire them over now, and you just press the Q&A tab on the Zoom.
Yeah, feel free to use the Q&A tab, or again, you can private message me, as a couple of people have already done. So I've had one, which is who should be involved in the design sprint?
Yeah, so in the design sprint, it should be, people, ideally someone that's an expert in the field that you're with the problem that you're trying to solve. It's useful to have like a UX person in there, UI designer, although obviously if we were hosting it, we would have that. And, obviously the person with idea, and yeah, just as many people as you can that have an understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve, some industry experts.
Okay, great. We had one from Alan here that says, what was the ideas website that you mentioned? So I'm guessing that's the one where you upload your idea and people can upvote and downvote it. I'll write it into the chat as well so that it's...
Yeah, it was Product Hunt, producthunt.com.
Producthunt.com. And then we've also got, so what do you think a realistic budget is to achieve an MVP?
So to get a decent MVP that's that can make a good impact and success, you probably be looking at least £50,000, and that would be quite a streamlined product. Yeah, at least £50,000.
Okay, so we're looking at about 50,000. We've just had another one. Is there a design sprint offered in the UK to avoid flying, considering the climate impact?
Yes, so the design sprint offering is new to us. We will definitely be able and willing to host them in the UK as well, no problem.
Perfect. And I've had one more, which is, what do you think the best technologies to choose are? Which I think we're kind of aware, but if you can reiterate your personal opinion.
Yeah, so we chose Java and Angular as the 2 main technologies, as I mentioned, just because they kind of, in simple terms, force the developers to write better quality code, and they attract a higher caliber of developers.
Perfect.
Okay, any more?
Coming from me.
That's right.
another 30.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so thank you very much, everybody. So after the webinar, you'll get sent just a little questionnaire so you can let us know what you think. And yeah, so thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask myself or Georgia afterwards. I'll send our emails and contact information. So yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy your Thursday and bank holiday weekend as much as you can. And I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, guys.